Hey guys, greetings and salutations. Jen here. Give me a moment while I set things up and pull up a screenshot for y'all, or a screen for you to look at. So show my face. Sometimes I think that's important. I know why people don't want to show their faces, but sometimes I feel like I have to let you know I'm a real person. I know my camera isn't the best because it's on a laptop, but it is what I have available to me now. See my shirt? Can you see it? How funny. It says Jesus was a refugee, Matthew. So anyways, I'm going to share some of a book that I've had for a while, and I've talked about it with you guys. So if you've been expecting that, that's coming now. Good morning. I'm so glad to see you. I have to go over here and make sure that I'm actually live, just to make sure everything's working like it should be. There we go. Hi, green-eyed mama. Pretty green eyes. I wish I had pretty eyes. I always wanted like violet eyes. I thought that'd be so cool. I have my morning vegan energy drink. Usually my morning drink is orange juice, but things are expensive. And I don't promote energy drinks, but sometimes you need a little oomph, especially when you're like denying yourself a bunch. What you doing, Sam? I think he wants off of his chain. Come here. Come here. So, what was I talking about yesterday? I'm going to bring you up. Oh, I did bring it up. This is someone I did not know existed. I did not know who she was. Her name is Elizabeth Christ Trump. For some reason, when you pull her up, sometimes the Christ is in quotations. Apparently, that was also Trump's father's middle name. And I believe this is his grandmother. Now, I'm going to talk about her a little bit because she's a part of kind of what's going on now. Now, what we're having now in America, and we're going to go back because in order to understand what's happening now, you have to go to the roots. We're going to go to the political, cultish roots of America. And I'm going to attempt to prove to you that politics as a whole is a cult. It's its own religion. Hold, please. Samson, come here. Samson, lay down. Why are you giving her a problem? Sorry. With two dogs and one a boy and one a girl, sometimes it's a hard road to show, but he's my best friend. So what do I got to say about this woman? I don't know her, never met her, never researched her, did not know she existed until recently. I have talked about my testimony, but I don't want to give all of that here. I'm going to give the little part that is related to this. Now I'm going to go over here and kind of see if I can pull up some images of I will. That way what's going on. Now, if you look at her, has long hair that's pulled up. Now, what do you notice about her, what I've been telling you all along? Now, Trump, I guess, when he was younger, had reddish hair. And I've talked about how the gingers are really coming to the forefront of things right now. And that's why I suspect Harry is going to take some type of part in all this. Now, you see, Trump is allowing the rich and wealthy to buy their way into citizenship, to bypass the classes and the test and all that. And I think in part that's for people like Harry. He has that big lawsuit going on about his immigration status. Now, what do you notice about her? If you pull up a picture of her, she's got the light eyes. Okay, she's got the greenish blue eyes. When she was younger, you can really see it. I don't want to pull these up too much because I don't want the internet connection to go down. But I just want you to get an idea of what she looks like. Now, this picture right here. I told you about the problems that I had at my job, about how I knew I was being gaslit and how I was kind of led to go in there. I wasn't even looking for a job at that time because I knew that because of what happened, because of me and my spouse and the family, I knew that I was going to have problems living in this area still. Getting a job, keeping a job, just going out in public is a problem. Now, people will say, how can you say that you, this one person, are targeted by all these people? You can't be that important. It's not about me. It's about the people that I'm around. Now, this woman here, I'm going to say right now, I don't believe in clones. And I'll tell you why. I don't think that you can, first of all, it's the word. They trick us with words. The etymological foundation of the word clone, it's just a synonym for the word twin. It just means twin, genetic twin, the same as another, a couple, a pair. So I don't believe that vessels can be created without God putting his Holy Spirit into them and giving them the breath of God, the breath of life. So I don't believe in clones in the traditional sense, but I do believe that you can genetically manipulate things. Now we have to be careful with DNA. DNA comes from Baphomet. Baphomet holds the DNA in its symbolism is that DNA chain. This is why I don't get DNA tests, because you can't trust them. Scientism is also their religion, and politics is a big part of that. And I'm going to try and prove that now and take you back to World War II a little bit, because all of these people that I've talked to, that I worked with, all of these children, and even my spouse, they are all like obsessed with World War II. And if you talk to them, they say, oh, yeah, I like history. But the only history they like is World War II. Now, this woman, this picture right here, and especially this picture when she was younger, she looks exactly like one of the girls that I worked with. I'm going to call this girl Annie. Her name did start with an A, but again, I'm not ready to just out people. Now you're going to say, Jen, you say that you live around a lot of people that look like these famous people. How could that be? If you were famous and if you were wealthy, would you want everybody knowing your image, what your face looked like, and where you were all the time? These wealthy people, that's why I say they have proxies representing them on television. They live beside us. They are our neighbors. They are our friends. Some of them are your family members who have been initiated in the last few years. They have initiated a bunch of people, and especially on YouTube, you can go back 4, 5, 6 years and see people in the milk baths and taking baths in their videos. That is their baptism into this cult of politics, into this cult of Project Paperclip. And I'm going to show you that in just a moment. So please be patient and thank you for being here. Thank you for your patience. It is getting a little frustrating for me because I see people sub and then they unsub and then they sub and then they unsub. Listen, I understand that you don't want to be associated with my channel because of some of the things that I talk about. I get that. But if you can't even be brave enough to be subscribed to a channel whose information that does help you, how are you going to be courageous enough to stand firm in the truth at this time? Truth is going to become very valuable, very scarce, very rare, and we need people who are brave and courageous. Now, brave and courageous, it doesn't mean that you have no fear. It just means that you're overcoming your fear. Hi, repent now, stay near the Lord, etc. It's spells. Yes, yes. And also DNA, as repent and stay near the Lord has said, DNA, if you switch the letters around, spells Dan. The Antichrist is supposed to come through the tribe of Dan. But what if, again, it's just their confusing of the letters, and that's just telling you about DNA, Dan, same thing. Okay. When they started these tests in 2019, I told you don't listen to what they're saying. Turn the volume down and just look at the picture. What do you see? It looks like DNA tests. Now, no part of this is medical advice. No part of this is legal advice. You should take that to your chosen experts. This is a spiritual channel where we defragment and decode what's happening in the public. Now, what's happening around me is key because you see it in the media. The devil is in Ohio. The train crash in Palestine, right, like an hour from me, that I didn't see any proof of. I didn't see any smoke of. They only have one image of, okay? And it's copying a movie, that Whiteout or something it's called, that was on Netflix at that same time. Everything they're doing and they're putting in the media is coming from our pop culture media. It's stories and movies and plot lines that have happened in fiction. Now, when they put it in our media, does that mean it's actually happening, or are they just borrowing from pop culture? Because again, these other ones that are here with us, they can't create. That's why they're sucking off of me. I am like their proxy. They gauge my reactions to things, and then that's how they behave in the public. I know now why they copy me. I didn't know before, because they have no empathy. They have no compassion. They don't know how to be human, how to fit in. And I don't like the word human anymore because that means like colored man. We all have a color tone. We are of mankind, the race of mankind, okay? I try not to use their words because their words are how they trip us up. So I worked with this girl who looked exactly like this picture here, this here. She had real long hair, real sweet girl, said she was a Baptist. The second she noticed I was being persecuted, she stopped speaking to me. And then she started gaslighting me with the other children that are there. And you're going to say, why are these kids gaslighting you? Why are they doing this? Because I harmed my family, because I fell and I sinned. But that's not even the bad part. The bad part is that I confessed. They're considering me a rat now because I'm disloyal. I'm not being disloyal to them. They don't understand. I'm going to fight for their souls. And everyone who's stealing my content and then making monetized content of it on TikTok, I think it's great that the messages are spreading, but you need to be warned. I told God a long time ago that I would do this. And there was an agreement that I would lose my life for this if that's what it took to show people that Christ came to show us, one, not to fear death, two, that death isn't permanent, three, that there's some big illusion and deception regarding death happening here. I was one that talked about no new cemeteries. I was one that talked about where all the bodies going. I was one that talked about missing 411 and how they're closing down the national parks and how the ancient elders of the tribes used to do special binding prayers to keep certain creatures in that area. There's a reason we have cordoned off wilderness, and it's not just for endangered species that we know of, it's for the others that live here with us. In World War II, the Nazis did a lot of genetic experimentation. There was a doctor named Mengele, Joseph Mengele, and others. I believe, now what happened is after World War II, America let all of these mad scientists basically from Germany come down here and escape prosecution for war crimes and crimes against humanity. America gave them amnesty, and they started what we now know as NASA. We know that there is no space. So what are they actually studying? They're studying the space in between your brain. That's why when they show you space, it looks so much like the synapses firing off in your brain, because that's what they're showing you. Okay. Also, there's a reason that they practice in water is because if they ever get through the firmament, there is water there. I also believe there's a little bit of water on this side because our air has a certain content of water. You just don't notice it because it's normal to you, okay? Just like SpongeBob living in the water is normal to him. He doesn't recognize that he's inhaling and exhaling water. It's in our air. But anyways, this woman looks exactly like a girl that I worked with. And everybody started fawning over her. And it was weird. Now, when adults try to get information across, like when we're talking about Christmas presents or secrets, we'll give each other like certain eyes and we'll say things in an exaggerated way so that the child can't catch on. The adults that I worked with were doing that about this Annie girl. Again, that's not her actual name. I try not to out people no matter what they've done to me, unless God says it's that time. So I worked with this Annie person and she started gaslighting me like the other ones. Now understand, these other ones, their parents own businesses, but they were working at this business because that's their rite of passage. Okay. When they hit a certain age, they're going to be given a business. And yes, I said given because that's how it works here. Once they give their time, and all of these kids, most of them are coming from adopted families because these ones can't have children, but they want to take our children, like on the orphan trains, and raise them apathetically, without compassion, without empathy, and to see if they can make us do harm to each other. So we've got a bunch of children running around that were raised by these ones that have some type of misplaced loyalty to them. And the same thing happened in the schools. My children were indoctrinated into the schools. No, don't trust your parents. Your parents don't understand you. They don't welcome everybody. Your parents aren't all inclusive. Our children heard this for years, and I caught on too late. I do this so other parents maybe can catch on ahead of the time. Green Eyed Mama says media equals metala, lit, planner, schemer. Oh, for his name meaning for Mengele. Very close. Very close. Yeah. I was also looking at something, and we're going to talk about the mark of the beast briefly, also known as the sorceress of pharmakia, medicinal magic. Interesting. Interesting. Very good work you do, Green Egg Mama. Very good work. I would appreciate it if you want to take my email, and anytime you research, feel free to shoot it to my email box and we can do studies on it or research with me's on it, or I can just make a video of it if you'd like to share and be involved that way. So this girl started gaslighting me, and one of the adults there, the cook, he said, "Oh, Annie's dough is the best. Annie does it the best. Hers are just great." And she started like wanting things done her way, and I'm like, "Well, that's not how I was trained. I was trained this way." And granted, I've worked in a lot of restaurants. I'm older than all of these children, but I'm willing to learn from them because some of them have been at this establishment longer than me. It doesn't mean I don't have sovereignty, and it doesn't mean I am under them forever. It just means I'm willing to learn from them, from people who are actually under me in the hierarchy, because I am of mankind and I have sovereignty and I have authority through Jesus Christ, and this land is my inheritance. This is why I stand firm. They want me to think I'm in a different realm. They've tried to make me think I'm on a different planet. Just stop. Just stop. Okay, so the girl that I work with looked just like this. And then she comes to work and gets dropped off in this black truck. And my husband always gripes about this black truck and the windows are tinted. When he's griping at somebody like that, I know that's misdirection and that's actually a friend of his. They give themselves away with this overacting and this over exaggeration of their words and mannerisms. But that's how I caught on, because the other adults at this place were really, "Oh, she's the best, she's the greatest," but their eyes were talking a different story, like, "Hey, we're being listened to, you gotta be careful." Everything we did there was recorded, and I get to the point where I just don't care. I'm going to be me. I'm not going to allow certain things to affect me. The problem is these people are everywhere. Why did I work with a person who looked exactly like Trump's aunt? Why did one of the boys I worked with, why was he called Golden Boy and treated like, like he was golden? Real tall too, real tall for only 16 or 17. He gaslit me. He was always threatening my dog. What am I going to do? He's underage and I'm an adult, right? "Oh, yeah, your dog this, your dog that." Green Eye says, "Yes, my privilege and pleasure. I was gang stalked by staff and to the point of resigning from my job doing free from art with artistic students. I was accused of the most abominable type of person." And they're going to do that. They are going to accuse us of the things that they have done. They're the ones, if it's being done, that have abused children. They're the ones who have been the harmers, but narcissistic people, and that's what they call them, but they're not even totally like us. They're not of mankind. That's what they do. They accuse you of everything that they're doing, and they're very over exaggerated, much like you see Trump is. So why do I work with people who look exactly like some of these people? I have a theory, and it's going to be weird. If we are in Satan's little season, it's very possible that people have already been risen up, or they're using genetic tinkering to bring back specific vessels for these spirits, because we know from the Bible it says that after they watch their children die, they shall roam the earth and be called evil spirits. Those are the things, though, that if you give them consent, they can possess you. They can possess a human body, much like an angel can possess a human body if it has the permission, the consent, or it can just make itself look like something. Now, if they're doing genetic tinkering, and I'm talking about all these micro mannerisms of their face, about how I'm seeing them almost warp in front of me. When you get them agitated, or when you call them out and you expose them right then and there and you say, "I know what you're doing," they get agitated. Their faces will start to do things, but like tremble, almost like you've seen a seizure. Just their lips and their eyes a little bit. It's something I've never seen before in like an actual organic person. And this is why I talk about this stuff, because it's so far out of most people's framework. But it's coming from World War II and Project Paperclip, and this is why they love this. But yes, this girl gave me nothing but problems. Her name is Elizabeth Christ Trump. She was, now get this, she was the aunt of Trump, but this goes even deeper. When she died, it was June 6th, 1966, 666. My alleged grandson, okay? My son's name, I didn't name him. His father named him Caesar. He named his son Roman, who was born on 6/6/24. 2 plus 4 is 6. I don't think it's even his child. I think they're gaslighting me and showing me symbolism for what's happening right now in this time. Now, you can do as you will with that, but I'm telling you, they're trying to make vessels that are genetically appropriate for these ones who have already gone. Now, the Hopi prophecy tells us something like this will happen. It has a lot of good in it for the people who choose the pathway away from technology, but it also says that the people who choose that there will be, I can't remember exactly, but we'll look into it in the next video. There will be beings on earth who were never intended to walk the earth, who were never intended to live life. That would be the Nephilim. And God was very patient. He allowed them to live. He allowed them to be created. But when they started eating everything and putting other species at danger by eating them, and then when they got perversions, sexual perversions, God had had enough. And that's where we're at again. In the days of Noah, most people miss this stuff. So if we are in Satan's little season, we have already seen, or we are seeing, the dead in Christ rise, and then the other ones rise. Okay? And if you're rising, you won't have any memory. Just like when you sleep, you wake up and the day just your life just continues. Christ told the man on the cross beside him, I will see you next in paradise. So whatever happens between then and there is a timeless transition. We might go through 10 or 20 years, but those people who are crossing over, for them it's like instantaneous, even though time has passed. I hope that makes sense. So again, I work with a girl now I worked with a girl who looked exactly like that, and everyone catered to her and pandered to her. Now I'm going to show you Project Paperclip, and then we're going to read a little bit from a book that I've had for a while, and I've been telling you guys that we were going to look into this. So let me pull this up. I'm going to pull this summary up so you can check this door that everything looks okay and still live. Good. I have my phone running just to make sure that they're going here how they're supposed to. Good. Oh, my collection is unstable. Hold, please. I'm sorry if I'm quiet right now. I just want to make sure things are still running because it said my collection was bumpy. Yay, okay. Looks like we're good. I think. Sorry if I'm quiet right now. Wow, there is a delay. I didn't realize how much of a delay there is. But again, I do got to make sure that this is working today because we've had so many problems. And if I'm not giving people truth, then why do they attack my channel so much? And why did they remove the content of my other channel when we know that they save that stuff for years and years? They save your data. They save all of these things. They save your map, your Google Map travels for years and years. Okay, so we're going to get to what was Project Paperclip. Quick summary. Project Paperclip was a U.S. government program. Now listen, again, they brought these mad scientists down from Germany. Now, again, you're going to say, what does your family have to do with this? The family that I'm married into, one of the names is Warren, which is German. It would be Varen, one of the towns and one of the counties within my 100-mile radius. They're named after them. They're named Warren. Never sunk in for me, right? There was also on his grandfather's wall a plaque of Bush because he had done engraving work and he's an artist, and that's what they do. They love artists and stuff, and I've kind of stopped creating because everything I create, they either try to exploit or they've ruined the last few years, and that does discourage you, and they do that on purpose to people like me. and people like you. So, Project Paperclip was a US government program that sponsored the post World War II immigration of German and Austrian scientists and technicians to the United States in order to exploit their knowledge for military and industrial purposes. The program lasted less than 2 years, but similar programs continued until 1962. Now, remember, these programs that they have, oftentimes they last for years and years, but what happens is they rename them, right? They just rename them and they rebrand them, much like I feel like they've done with the nations. They say America isn't in the Bible. Oh, it's in there. Why? How do I know? Because the Bible tells us there's nothing new under the sun. There's nothing new under the firmament. I mean, God creates constantly, right? Birth, new life, that types of things. But as far as what we can create and what we do and what happens here, there's nothing new, right? So the paperclip project under that name lasted only a couple of years, but you'll see that after that is when all this MK Ultra CIA stuff started. And the CIA really has me intrigued right now. Central Intelligence Agency, it's like the brain of America, but they do operations all over. It's almost like it's just this entity that they blame for all the bad things that happen. Nowadays, I just wonder what the truth of that is. Like, what is the CIA? What is the FBI? What are all these organizations? Because then you hear about the men in black showing up, right? Are they just regular guys in black suits and black ties like Mormons and people coming to your door to sell something? Or are they actual other beings? So the Paperclip Project, on the other hand, is a monument created by middle school students from the small southern Tennessee town of Whitwell for the Holocaust victims of Nazi Germany. Okay, can you tell us what it is, though? It was a secret United States intelligence program in which more than 1,600 German scientists, engineers, and techs were taken from former Nazi Germany to the US. Okay, now let's see if this will pull up for us real quick in this book. And let me make sure this pulled up for you guys. All right, Project Play, not to be confused with Operation Paper. Look at that. Since the 19th century, the US government has participated and interfered both overtly and covertly in the replacement of many foreign governments. We did that in Egypt. That's what happened. We're doing that in Syria. That's what happened. We're trying to do that in Ukraine. What's happening here is you're seeing all of the governments, all of the top people being taken out. That's why the Queen is gone. That's why the Pope, I told you they were gone basically at the same time back in 2019. And I've been talking about this since 2017 that these things were coming. So that's interesting to note that they actually admit that right there. Operation Paperclip was a secret U.S. Intelligence program. More than 1,600 German scientists, engineers, and techs were taken from former Nazi Germany to the U.S. government employment after the end of World War II. Now let's see. Several were confirmed to be former members of the Nazi Party, including the SS or the SA. Let me change this so you guys can see it better. I think it's easier to read on the black screens. The white screens can kind of hurt your eyes. Okay, the effort began in earnest in 1945. Now, what else happened in 1945? That's a huge year. You have Roswell, you have Israel was named a state. If we are in the little season, if people are raising from the dead, or if possibly Revelation is not in chronological order, we're being told all these things happen one after another, but they're kind of happening simultaneously, right? If this is what's happening, we have to go back to 1945 because that's when Israel became a nation. Now, again, I tell you to ignore the media. I believe America was just renamed and rebranded. Like they rename and rebrand their programs, they do it with their own identities. You see this time and time and time again. Most people don't notice it. Like I showed you how Letmath looked almost exactly like the Queen, just pop a curly gray wig on him. A lot of these people play multiple roles in front of us. Now, are they the actual people? Yes and no. I believe they are proxies or they have proxies. This is why they are legion. Much like you see with the Slender Man thing, how the girls who went off and did the bad things were his proxies. The people who go and act on his behalf are known as proxies. We have the same thing. Our celebrities, our big families, our politicians, they're all bad actors and they tell you that. Okay, so it says July 20th, 1945, with the dual aims of leveraging German expertise for the ongoing war effort against Japan and to bolster U.S. post-war military research. The operation conducted by Joint Intelligence Objectives Agency, JIOA. They love those letters because FOIA, Freedom Information Act, is very similar. Was largely actioned by special agents of the U.S. Army's Counterintelligence Corps. Many selected scientists were involved in the Nazi rocket program, aviation, or chemical, biological warfare. The Soviet Union in the following year conducted a similar program called Operation, I am not good at Russian, Osovyakim, that emphasized many of the same fields of research. The operation characterized, oh, sorry, my bad. The operation, characterized by the recruitment of German specialists and their families, relocated more than 1,600 experts to the US. Now, if we talk about how some of us are Truman and how city planning is a big part of that, remember, my son gave me a lot of clues. He was going to go into city planning, which was a big switch from the vet school he told me he wanted to go for. He had a 5-year plan, which was totally trashed. Anyways, they have told me all of these things in their own ways. They are all obsessed with World War II, and it's not because of any patriotism. Now, it says the operation was not solely focused on rocketry, it was about genetic manipulation. This is why they studied so much on twins. Now, I gave you a little idea of what this means, right? I'm going to bring you to a book that I've been promising to go over with you, and we're going to read a little bit of that together. And if you understand the verbiage that I use, please do consider giving the material. The channel itself will never be monetized. That's why I get angry when people take the messages. The butterfly effect is amazing. I don't care if you take the messages. The fact that you're monetizing them, I told God I wouldn't do that. So if you're taking the message information that is not yours, you're exploiting me and the gift that I have with God. But you're not only doing that, you're going against what I said I would do. You're really in the wrong here, and you should repent of that because you don't want to be in my position. I promise God that if it came down to it, I would be a martyr, that this would be the hill I would die on for my children. And if it would prove to people that death is not permanent and that there's a big illusion happening in regards to death itself. If you want to know more about what I'm talking about, I'm going to talk about it more, but go back to one of the first uploads on this channel, and it's called the Death Simulation, where I kind of talk about the high strangeness possibilities regarding that theory. So I am going to show you an article here, but let me bring something else up on this other channel or this other link. Okay, we're going to do that. There. Okay, cool. Now I pulled this up real quickly. This was from the Freedom of Information Acts when I did a quick search on Project Paperclip. Green-eyed mama says, my DNA was manipulated. I now am suffering from a rare genetic disorder with no cure. I will speak louder and more frequently because of their actions. The little town may be part of it. Yeah, city planning, if you notice, a lot of our towns have the same names. You always see, like, for example, illicit substances being sold on roads named Martin Luther King, MLK Boulevard. Why? I do not know. MLK is usually a cul-de-sac. You usually have to turn around, and there's no way out on those areas. Most cities are set up the same so that they can run game around people, and they're only running the same script over and over and over again. I hope that makes sense. This is also why they're using the media, past pop culture, like books and things, like the train crash in Ohio, how it came from a movie and Netflix. We're dealing with children. Basically, the mentality these spirits have are children. They're no longer adults. Trump is not the Trump he used to be. I didn't like him before. I really don't like him now. I don't care for any politicians or anyone they show on the screen because I know what it is now. Green-eyed mama, your DNA can change. If trauma can change your DNA, then all this DNA evidence needs to be thrown out, because if something as simple as outward trauma can change your DNA, then you can change it too by the frequency that you bring into it. So green-eyed mama, I'm going to pray for your healing and complete cure, but I would advise that you go online Don't do any binaural beats. Those are bad. Those will pretty much make you a sock puppet. You'll turn into one of these bots. Stay away from the binaural beat stuff. Anything that's pushing and trending, you don't want to be a part of right now. That has to do with hypnotism, mesmerism. I had people pushing me to do that. And this guy kept emailing me from the channel, and he doesn't leave me alone no matter how many times I tell him, don't contact me again. They don't listen. Now they're starting to really not respect consent. And I have a big problem with that myself. But let's get to this. This says the invisible third world war. This is from July 1985. And it says, this is an editor's note. I don't even want to start there. If you want to read that on your own, you can. I just want you to go through a little bit of this with me, and then we're going to bring up this book. Now, this talks about Wizards of Death. Okay, so this is really good. We might only do this one now, and then the book in the next video, and do a part like 3-ish, 2-ish. Editor's note, Walter Bauer's Operation Mind Control caused a furor in the United States intelligence community when it was first published. Hold, please. There we go. Let me see if I can find where we were. Wow, that's just hard to read. Okay. Bauer's research on the subject of government agency involvement in dangerous and often life-threatening human experimentation of unwitting citizens paved the way for a new era and exposure of such unconstitutional practices were halted, and the responsible government agencies were forced to release information which had previously been hidden from the general public. The sad thing about this is when you see our government or any government come out and apologize for the actions that they took when they experimented on the public without their knowledge or consent, when they apologize, it's many years later and the damage is already done. Like, we're being targeted now, and we are owed for war crimes. We are owed reparations for war crimes because of a lot of us are so traumatized. We don't trust anybody. We don't want to go around other people, let alone work in the public. Do you think that they will? And again, money can be printed. Like, I'm so sick of people saying, oh, well, you didn't do anything. You don't do anything. Learn new skills. I worked and supported my family for 25 years, working 2 and 3 jobs, a couple of them under the table, just pulling weeds and cleaning the pool where I lived before and after my real job, just so I could show my kids a decent trip every summer for a few years in a row. A lot of us have been worked and used up and traumatized to the point where we're almost useless, insofar as the way they want us to be essential. Everyone here is essential. I don't want to see people, especially the youth, falling into this deception about how your parents don't care about you. A parent who does not discipline does not love. A lot of these beings have no compassion or empathy, but I have hope that if they just listen for a few moments, or they just watch, or they just really open themselves up, that anything can happen with God's help. So I try to expose these things, but I love everybody, even the people, like, I don't know whose genetics might be mixed up. I have suspicions because I know that in World War II, they were looking for blonde-haired, blue-eyed people. That was the Aryan perfect race. And you also hear about it in the Alien Deception with these Nordics who are tall and blonde and blue-eyed. Most of them, though, are the ones that I've met. Not all of them, but most of them are so cruel, and they have no empathy, and they are very apathetic instead of empathetic. And I'm going to say something here. I am not an empath. People tell you stories sometimes because now in this time, because they want that to stick to you like a bad spell. They tell you about their illnesses. I will pray for people who tell me they're sick, especially like Green Eyed Mama. But if that's all you're talking about on the channel, I know you. I know what you're up to, and I know you're just trying to get your negative words to stick as to people like spells. And I'm not going to have it. I will block you over and over again, no matter how many times you visit the channel. And it doesn't matter if other people don't believe. I know what the truth is. But I also know that I myself am protected. Some of these people are not. So I won't allow that on my channel. I won't allow it in my life anymore. Okay, so it says Bower continued his research into the horrifying mind-crippling effects Mind crippling. You see that? Mind crippling effects of government exploitation of its own citizens and mind control experimentation. What he uncovered is more incredible than any science fiction novel. Now, this article appeared on page one. It was called Freedom, July 1985, declassified in part. This is a sanitized copy, approved for release on 12/21/2011. That's weird because a lot of this FOIA stuff I've been going through for like the past week when I have time, a lot of it was released in 2011. And I'll go one further. 12/21, that's a pagan holiday. That's winter solstice. Now, again, I believe in winter solstice. I believe in planting by the moon and the stars and the sun and paying attention to that for farming purposes and for life purposes, because as above, so below. What we see happening in the heavens comes down here and affects us. So we need to be aware of that. Not just because I said as above, so below happens to be true, doesn't mean I am in a cult. You have to understand that there's truth everywhere. Just because you don't like where it's being delivered from doesn't mean that it's not true. Okay, so it says, in the as yet unpublished manuscript, The Invisible Third World War, Bowart and co-author Richard Sutton revealed that the world is already locked in deadly invisible warfare, fighting for the ultimate prize, the mind of man. When the first atomic bomb was detonated in Alamogordo, New Mexico in 1944, the warriors of the modern world experienced a flash of insight that changed the nature of war forever. Now, remember, a lot of these kids have been indoctrinated. Every single one of them told me their favorite subject is history, but the only subject they're really into is World War II. They tell you that on purpose. They're telling me these things on purpose. They know that I speak about these things, and they want to scare me. I don't get scared anymore. I am scared of going against what the Most High God, Creator, Maker of the firmament, everything above and in between. He's what gives me fear of disappointing my Father. Okay, and it's not because I'm afraid of him, as in like, I mean, it's fearful, the power that God has, right? But at the same time, I'm not afraid in that way. I'm afraid to disappoint him. You know, when you disappoint your parents and you know you've done something wrong and you get that feeling and your cheeks get hot and your stomach gets upset, if you have a conscience still, that's what's supposed to happen. Okay. So it says, the men who built the bomb realized that civilian populations were now unavoidable targets, and that conventional war had now become a dangerous trigger which could catalyze an earth-destroying retaliation with nuclear weapons, if they exist. Now, again, we're just reading here. I'm not any kind of expert in anything. My disclaimers are in the description box already. Such old-fashioned methods of warfare as gunpowder, employed by revolutionaries fighting protracted conflicts, were suddenly perceived as potential threats which could ignite the nuclear holocaust. The only safe way to wage war, the warriors realized, was to wage it silently. Now, this is what I want to make very clear. If there is such a thing as nuclear warfare, if that is a thing, no wise person would implement that, because it's going to affect the whole world. It would affect them and their children and their families too. And they probably in most cases don't want that. This is why you have to understand that this is an anti-human agenda for the most part. Now, the people around me, they know that I believe in the fallen angels. So instead of that guy telling me he was an alien, he told me he was a fallen angel. Now, was it true? He was definitely bigger. He had tooth problems. He pointed that out. He did not like to see people's mouths or teeth, hence the masks. The Antichrist spirit is legion and has been speaking to me through a lot of people. But are we in the time of tribulation or Satan's little season? And I want to put something to you, and I'd love to hear your comments on this. Is it possible that if we are in the little season, we would have to know that people here are lying to us for some purpose? And for some reason, God himself is hiding. Jesus would be hiding the New Jerusalem, right? Because that would already be here. They would already have the millennial reign. We would be at the end of that. So does God do that? Well, it says in the Bible that God conceals a thing, and it's a king's job to seek it out. But if we are in that little season, then we have to come to terms with some other things, right? So I'm going to let you sit with that for a minute, and I'm going to ask you a question in a minute here because I'm curious as to what your thoughts are on some of this. But let me read a little bit more of this and just leave that in the back of your mind. Okay, they changed it forever, yeah. The old-fashioned methods of warfare as gunpowder employed by revolutionaries fighting protracted conflicts were suddenly perceived as potential threats. Okay? Like, especially for the green agenda. The only safe way to wage war was it silently. Invisible warfare, or IW, as it came to be known, became a necessity. Let's talk about the mark. We are told that you cannot buy or sell without this mark, and that's what I want to focus on right now. I told you that my mom used to know everything I did, and it was eerie to the point that I was like, "She's a witch or something." Um, and I told you that I had a memory of my friend having a tablet, a device that looked like a tablet. At the time, I called it an Etch-a-Sketch screen because I didn't know what the heck it was. These things have been hidden from us, and some people, like my mother, like people that are Masons and Eastern Stars or whatever, not all of them, but some of them, have joined forces with this for the tech toys and hidden it. Now, if you go back historically, I think it's Alberini, Timothy Alberini. It was we read his book on the original channel about the Nephilim, talking about these possibilities. And so, if you cannot buy or sell without the mark, is it possible that the people who have those tattoos from World War II, the people that were marked like cattle, is it possible we were lied to about that? Is it possible they chose to get that mark so they could buy and sell? The book says it will cause all, men, women, free, slave, rich, poor. Is it possible they're lying to us? They tell us that they are the ones who were persecuted, but are they really the ones who broke and fell to the beast system and willingly got marked? And again, I'm not a denier or whatever that means. I'm a denier of mainstream media and what they tell us. This is why I tell you, turn the sound down and watch the pictures they're showing you and dissect that, because the words coming out of their mouth are usually lies. Do you think that's possible though? If we are in the little season, we have to come to terms with some things. And one of those things we would have to come to terms with is the fact that we have all these people that say they got these tattoos in Auschwitz so that they could be marked. And here's another thing. How would they mark all of those people in a concentration camp at one time? And I did look, it was mostly in Auschwitz. But what if it wasn't all at one time? What if it was a more organized, slower, deliberate, door to door process? Now, here's what I mean by this. Back in the day, if you're going to give tattoos, they were number one, really painful. Number two, not sanitary. Number three, you needed a lot of stuff. You needed a needle, you needed ink. And back then, they said they used stamps, like with needles, to make that shape or the numbers, and that they would pound it into your skin. That would take a lot of effort. It would take some supplies, right? Especially if you have two, three. We're told millions of people died. Well, what man, woman, child, who marked all these people? What if it wasn't in the camp? What if it was when they went door to door? What if those people who got the mark are the ones who weren't put into the camps? They were with the ones who willingly signed on with the beast system, because you can't buy or sell without that mark. Or, now I'm going to pose this question to you, and I would love to see your comments on this, because we're going to look into Satan's little season a little more. But again, there are things you have to come to terms with. If you're going to think that that's the time we're in, there's also the possibility that you, me, all of us are rejects, that we are the progeny of the fallen, because only Noah was the one chosen for being pure. He didn't have any spots on his garment, so to speak. And if this is the little season, we have to come to terms with those things. But what do you think? Is it possible? I mean, we know we've been lied to. Is it possible they lied to us about that too? We've seen pictures of men, very skinny men, laughing and joking in the camps. So is some of what we were told, is it backwards? Did the people who got the mark and who have those numbers, are they actually the ones who signed on for this? Is that the mark of the beast? Or are we now in tribulation, and the mark itself that you need to buy and sell, now you should remember this from the lockdowns, is www. www, the closest thing that it comes to, because I'll tell you another thing. the Roman alphabet, the Latin alphabet, the Greek alphabet, however you want to look at that, all the Romance languages of Florence and Italy and Germany, a lot of old languages didn't have a W. They had, you would call it a W, double V, right? But a lot of languages don't have a W. This is why Elon's thing is the X, Generation X, Twitter X, this thing X. We know where it comes from, Egyptian and Roman times, because again, they just rebranded themselves in different areas. They wore different clothes to the cultures, but they were all the fallen ones who we started worshiping. And apparently they enjoyed that, so they stayed and hung around and made babies and had families and did the whole thing. So it's possible that the mark you'll need to buy and sell will be www. Because they're closing down all the brick and mortar stores. They did their beta test was the lockdowns to see how many people would comply. And Amazon knows that that's all it got. And the droids you're seeing, that you were seeing in Jersey, that, everybody wants to make content because they want money. Most of them don't care about truth. Those drones are probably being tested for Amazon because they're going to start delivering your packages with drones. In China, for the last several years, their fireworks shows and displays have all been done with drones. But they don't do that here. And when you put drones above New Jersey, people allegedly freak out. The rest of the world is far ahead of us in technology. If America is the newest nation, like we are told, why are all our ministers and priests going across the pond to other nations to preach the gospel? Those are older nations, right? They're older than us. That's where the gospel started. So America would actually be the last place that the gospel needed to be spread for these events in the end times to start having momentum and coming into fruition. The prophetic utterances coming into reality, manifesting, right? That they're getting they're getting ignited, right, to start rolling it out. So what do you think? What time are we in? So I just wanted to lay out a few of those possibilities for you and tell you about what the mark might be if they do more lockdowns. You can't buy or sell without the internet. And it's probably going to be X. You're going to vote through X. All of your information will be there. And the thing that you get on your hand might just be a Roman numeral X, maybe. Maybe. Because, again, the W, the closest thing in the Hebrew alphabet to the W that I looked up. Let me see if I can find it on my phone real quick. Just so I don't have to pull it up here. I just want to show you real quick. If I have it here. Let's try the times. All right, let me see if I can Google it. W. Hold, please. It's easier this way. The closest thing that they have to the W is la la la. Come on. The Hebrew letter that corresponds most closely. Are we live? What's happening? No. Okay. It says the Hebrew letter that corresponds most closely to the English sound W is the letter Vav. It looks like a straight line, like an I. While modern Hebrew typically pronounces it as a V, like in very, it historically had a W sound. Some Yemenite dialects, particularly in religious contexts, still preserve this. Now, Vav, pay attention, is the sixth letter, okay? The one in sound that's closest to the W, but it looks like a straight line. Vav is the sixth letter, 6, of the Hebrew alphabet. Modern pronunciation in most modern Hebrew, Vav is pronounced as a V. Historical pronunciation, historically, and in some minority dialects, Yemenite Hebrew, Vav was pronounced as a W. It is the sixth letter, and what does it mean? Well, let's see. Now, it's called, it says wow, wave. It's called the hook. is the sixth letter of the Semitic abjads, including Phoenician, Aramaic, Hebrew, Syriac, and Arabic. All of the oldest languages that we got from the fallen little g gods that we started worshiping as gods. Because God does have a pantheon, right? He does have a hierarchy. Most people don't want to hear this. I'm not a pagan, but I've studied it enough to know. A lot of us are worshiping the same thing, right? But we're out of order and error, some people, because of how they're worshiping or what they're doing. Every prophet said to stop the sacrifices and nobody listened. Every single prophet. Stop spilling blood. Stop doing that. Nobody got it. They said, well, we're not spilling it to false idols. That wasn't the point. Stop spilling it, period. And I proved that with Jeremiah and Isaiah, I hope, at this point. So I'll show you briefly, just so we don't lose our internet connection. Phoenician, Hebrew, Aramaic, Syriac, Arabic. I gotta make sure we're still good. Oh no. Okay. I just wanted to make sure. So it looks like a hook or a staff. It really doesn't look like a W, but I want you to know what it looks like in case they start talking about stamps or tattoos or how it's going to have to look. Is it going to be the same for everybody? Will it be different and unique? Well, they're going to tell you it's unique to you. Nobody can hack this way. Anybody can hack you this way. It'll be so much easier. Elon Musk says, oh, the government's, the way they file stuff is archaic. Yeah, paper and filing cabinets might be archaic. However, I'll tell you something. It's really hard to fake an original document. But digitally, anything can be changed and altered. Even these older pictures we're looking at can be changed and altered. I'm going to tell you something else, and then we'll get back to this. I told you how my sister-in-law, how the person my son now is with looks like a younger version of her, down to the way she walks, the legs, the pigeon-toed, and even like this crooked lip thing that you see some of the women have now where it's real poofy. She's in her 20s. I don't know if she had an injection or what. She looks exactly like my sister-in-law, but younger. And then there's another version that worked with my husband who had the middle name of my sister-in-law and looked like an in-between version of them who had no teeth. They all look alike, all of them. Blonde hair, blue eyes. That girl that I just showed you, Elizabeth Christ Trump, who looks like the Annie girl that I worked with. She also had like that big, just almost like that same type of smile. Their reincarnation process, that is for them. Reincarnation is real. It is the only way they found to have life still. The problem with that is, one, they have to have a body that they have consent to go into. That body has to be genetically welcoming to them. It has to be of their bloodline or it won't work. This is why you see their bloodlines procreate and stay together, because they can't keep inhabiting these vessels if they don't have the proper genetic makeup. If you don't have the proper genetics, they can't possess you, even with your consent. I know this because when I was taking care of my father-in-law, the one who resembles the Pope, who passed away, allegedly, when I was tending to him, that was one of the things he said to me. He allegedly had a brain tumor, so I forgot about it, but he said, "You're not family. You're not blood." And I'm like, well, neither is she. Why is she getting treated so great? And why did she? My family, they had never attacked me like this. Like, I didn't know what was going on. Yes, I had bowed out of a lot of family activities because my spouse was getting really abusive at that time. And most women all know you don't want to go anywhere with somebody who's like that to you, especially around his family, because then you've got to, like, you can't say anything. You've got to be quiet. That's why I was amazed when my aunt, who has this psych degree, allegedly said, Jenny, people usually don't talk about this and until years later. Why are you testifying online like this? I said, how long do you think I kept him to myself? My child just turned 18. How long do you think I've endured these types of things? Him going to jail now for busting my head open and detaching my ear from my head, that was a climax. I had went through covert, quiet, nasty abuse for many years. If you don't do what I want, I'll go in there and cut your baby up. That's what he told me. My child, which was also his child. If you don't do what I want you to do, if you don't give me access to your body, I'm going to go in there and hurt that child, and it's going to be all your fault. That's the stuff I lived with for years, and that's also his child. These people have no compassion. Now, he wasn't always like that. I don't know if these rituals that they do, this Hiram Habif stuff with the masonry, I'm not sure exactly. I know that the Mormons, when they do this baptism of the dead, when they are a proxy for the deceased, that allows you to be inhabited in the name of your dead relative. If they want to come and enter you at that point in time, they can. That's why genetics are so important to them, because these beings can't inhabit bodies unless they have the proper genetic makeup. This is why so many around me look the same. Are we kind of jiving yet? Okay, so I want to go through this real quick. Green Eyed Mama said ancestors are tall, blue eyed, blonde, and cruel in World War II, supposedly. They save teeth and hair. Yeah, we clean the attic. They save body, like they save gallstone. It's weird. Like, why are you saving his kidney stones? Because it's a part of him. If you ever get mad at him and you want to do a nasty little spell, you already got a part of him right there. It's disgusting. And if you're not protected by the Most High Creator Maker God, yes, some of their stuff can work. But here's the thing, this is why as they age, all these people get really nasty looking. Like you see Madonna, you see how she used to be a beautiful girl. Most people that will translate into a beautiful, graceful woman, like Princess Di. But because she messed with all that stuff, do you see her now? She's barely coherent. She never looks right. I don't even know if that's her. It might be a computerized image at this point. But there's something going on with her brain. All these people who get involved in the occult and witchcraft as they age, there's flashback from this stuff. If you don't do it properly, even if you do it properly, there is still some part of that karma, consequences, boomerang effect, whatever you want to call it. It's real. It comes back to that witch or that person practicing those occult rituals. And again, this is why as they age, they get very, their inner condition starts to show on the outside. This is why you see the big lips, the bright, the big smiles, the kind of crooked faces. It's not all plastic surgery, it's the inside showing on the outside. She says, ancestors they save teeth and hair, SA, satanic abuse, or sensual abuse by a ginger FBI agent. I will not be triggered or activated. I'm a sound mind and I never self-harm. Amen. I have no desire to harm myself or anyone else. I'm a pacifist. Do I get mad? Heck yeah. Do I lose my temper? Yes, I still lose my temper. And I do that because it's so wretched to see my family and my husband, who used to care so much about our children, or at least acted like he did. He was a better actor, not have any relationship with them at all now. And I'm telling you, I think his spirit, his soul is no longer in that body. And whatever is left behind is changing physically, the features. And I'm starting to wonder about Pinocchio, because a lot of these people who have like a lot of these people who you find are bad actors, they have really big schnozzes, really big. Like my mom's just kept growing. And they say, oh, that's because we were Dago, you're Italian, or oh, I'm a Jewish person. It's, in our genes. Is it really? Because my mom's kept growing and I don't look like that. And I don't lie. My husband now looks like my mother, a male version of my mother. It's like the same spirit, right? And he even the creamer in the coffee and the way he takes his coffee is completely different, and it's the way she used to take hers. So when I say these spirits are around us and affecting us, I'm very serious about that. Green Eye Mama says in Hebrew, X means 10. In Hebrew. Well, I already looked up Hebrew and it says it means staff. Are you talking about the Roman numeral? X means 10. And the English gematria of 300, the same as URL. Oh, www dot. Interesting. Interesting. Okay, let's continue. I lost viewers because you start talking about your testimony and people don't want to hear it. That's part of the channel. We defeat our enemy through the word of our testimony and the blood of the Lamb. So it says mind crippling effects of government exploitation of its own citizens and mind control experimentation. What he uncovered is more incredible than science fiction. Okay, so we read that part. Such old-fashioned methods, we read that invisible war, or IW, had begun. Modern warriors developed a number of insidious methods of subduing enemy populations without their ever knowing that a war had ever begun. And I told you years ago, that we're at war. We are at war. And if you see the mail stop, if you see the post office stop operating, if Trump gets his wish and he stops the post office, that is the sign that we are under martial law. That's what they do. Everything he's doing, they're not gonna announce, "Oh, we're under martial law." They're gonna do all these little things. They're gonna click all these regulations in place because you can't just declare that. Again, you have to go through steps. He's gonna go through all these steps and tell you he's going through all these steps, and most people don't know that these steps are what lead to martial law. And that's just a fact. Like, I'm not giving false information or anything like that. It's just true. I just want to make sure we're still live. Okay. So it says secret invisible weapons now pose a more ominous threat to life than the thermonuclear holocaust. So let's go back up here. Only these weapons been developed without the knowledge of their intended victims, but worse, they cannot even be detected at the very moment they are murdering or rob. Listen to this. This is wild. I was just talking about robots and how people are acting like Legion and how they're all the same. Look at this. God is good, man. He leads us to all the right stuff. It says, but worse, they cannot even be detected, meaning these weapons of warfare. Are they going to tell us about the high tech stuff? Let's see. At the very moment they're murdering or roboticizing, turning citizens into bots. It says right here, murdering or robotizing civilian populations. That's wild, guys. Hold, please. Chemical and biological warfare, the secret plagues. Oh, sorry. Only if the veil of secrecy is lifted will the free people of the world have any hope of surviving long enough to liberate themselves from the bleak, unlivable future promised by the technology of invisible war. That's where we are right now. I didn't even read this before bringing it up. This was going to be an intro into that book, but now the book will be the next video because this got a lot in here. This might lead us to the targeted individual stuff. Chemical and biological warfare, the secret plagues. Governments do experiment on their own citizens. In the Soviet Union, the victims never get a chance to talk about it. They can even sue their government. So it says citizens can not only talk about it, they can even sue their government. We are owed reparations. If you're a targeted individual, you're owed reparations because they have practiced and experimented on us without our consent. And passive consent is not consent. It is void and it is fraud. Manipulated consent is not consent. It is void and it is fraud. I'm going to tell you a secret about my ear. When it got sewed back on, there was nobody in the emergency room but me and a few doctors and nurses. Very weird. So I'm getting these stitches in my ear, and she says, okay, you're going to need this stitched back on because your ear's, falling off. And I'm like, yeah, of course, go ahead. When she got to the last stitch, she said, okay, I just need your consent to tie this up and do this last. I'm like, why are you asking me? It's already what are you doing? But I was injured, right? I was traumatized. I didn't understand what was happening anyways. But I know that for a week or two, I couldn't lay flat on my ear. I had issues with it, and my mind did not clear until I started praying to God for deliverance. And I asked him to deactivate anything inside of me that was put there without my permission, consent, and that he did not put in, there that was not organically from the maker. Regardless, these things are real. These things happen, and they are happening to people right now. And those of us who are legitimate targeted individuals, we are owed reparations, and it costs them nothing to print out some money or to jack up some digital numbers. They have us fighting over something that has no value. The money that we have has value because we give it value. We could just as easily trade stones, pebbles, chips, shells. It doesn't matter. Like the Flintstones trading shells. Anything that we assign value to then has value. People started using money because they didn't have skills. Do you understand that? That the wealthy people created money and they created the Fed, they run the Fed because they have no real skills. They can't grow anything, they can't create anything, they're not artistic. That's why they exploit us and steal our creative juices. They have no skill set. Most of them are lazy, and not all of them. Again, I worked with a couple that were very hard workers. But the ones like this, the other ones that are here with us, they created money because they didn't have any skills to trade by. They couldn't barter. They weren't taught anything. So understand that the wealthy aren't better than you. They legitimately have no skills. They have no skills that they can be a commodity to society that way. All they do is move people in places and real estate signs. All they do is move things around on the board. They have no real power, but the power, again, that we assign to them. Do you see what I mean? The government has no power or value unless we assign it to them. The best thing we could do is turn the screens off, quit listening to them. Because when's the last time one of these politicians sat down with you and had dinner, brought groceries into your door, cut your grass for you, took out your trash, prayed with you? They're not our peers. And everybody's all like losing it over Elon Musk. He is not your peer. He might be telling you some truth because he wants your passive consent. He's saying, "Hey, this is what's coming. You better upgrade yourself, or you're not going to have a chance." Who does that? These kinds do that. Now, again, Trump's sister, Elizabeth Christ Trump, the one we just looked at. I'm sorry, my back's starting to hurt. Um, she was German. Trump is of that camp. And I'm not trying to say all German people are wicked. I'm saying the ones who came here with a mission. Okay, so a wide range of invisible warfare experiments. Now, remember, this was released in 2011, but the article itself is from 1985. They were openly talking about stuff like this and then hid it all from our generation. Please understand this. It skipped a generation. Our parents, this is why you see so many kids with their grandparents. Our parents lied to us about the place we are and the time we are and about who we are. And some of them aren't even our parents. Okay. So they didn't tell us anything, most of us, especially people like me who they saw would tell the truth or couldn't keep a secret. I can keep a secret if it's a decent secret and there's a good reason to keep it. Heck yeah, I can be loyal and faithful. But I'm not going to keep a secret that's going to hurt a bunch of innocent people who did nothing wrong and don't even know why something's happening to them. I'm not going to keep secrets that are deadly to people just because a certain group doesn't like them. Because if it's anti-Semitic for me to say things about that one group, then at the same time, I shouldn't be blanket statementing any other group, just like they shouldn't be doing it to me. Do you see what I mean? These double standards, they're all hypocritical. They don't want you talking about them, but they can do whatever they want to you. That's how they are in life, period. Okay? It skipped a generation. You see all these kids with the grandparents because they knew what was coming. And they signed on for it, a lot of them. That's why we were raised the way we were. In a number of experiments, the secret CIA Army team infected Americans with a deadly germ from 1949 to 1969 for 20 years. Equipped with nasal filters and other protective gear, these clandestine agents targeted civilian populations in Hawaii, Alaska, New York, Florida, and California. What areas did I tell you to stay away from that God warned me about? New York, Florida, California, and Hawaii was one of them before the Maui fires happened. Using trick suitcases and a 1954 Mercury is so dangerous, equipped with dual mufflers and extended tailpipes. The spooks, that's what they call the CIA agents. The spooks cast their clouds of plague. So what's happening is they put it in the exhaust of a car. The spooks cast their clouds of plague along 4 New York City turnpikes and through the commuter-choked Lincoln and Holland tunnels. So recently, that stuff you're seeing about the tunnels, they have to give a reason to you why they're blocking them off, and then suddenly they're opened up again. And you have to understand that there are other things that live here with us. And the reason these doubles or these people are able to play more than one part is either because a lot of the things you're seeing are basic green screens. They're not actually where they say they are. Or if they go to those places, they're getting there very quickly because there's a mode of travel that we haven't been included in. But again, Musk is going to take credit for creating these tunnels. Dude, he didn't do none of that. Everybody's like, how are you so busy? How are you so busy? Well, another thing that these ones don't need to do, they don't need to sleep. They don't need to eat and they don't need to sleep unless they want to for enjoyment. This is why they were so big on me going to sleep at the other address when all of this stuff was kicking off. Because all the things they do are while you're resting. Because evil doesn't rest. And that's why you're vulnerable while you sleep as well. If you don't pray before you sleep and do these things to protect you, things can mess with you as you rest. And I've talked about that ad nauseum. Attacks on Florida were followed by an epidemic of whooping cough in which 12 people died. In 1950, a secret biological warfare weapon launched from a Navy vessel blanketed San Francisco Bay. We talked about that recently. They're talking about that on TikTok too. 30 years later, on learning of the experiment, victims responded with angry lawsuits against the government. Government agents have injected thousands of unsuspecting Americans with germs, such as syphilis. God, that's terrible. That's a terrible way to go. And similar incidents have occurred in Britain and in the Soviet Union. A lot of people from these alleged alien abductions, too, they wake up with injections. I've told you about the ones on my neck. I woke up the other day with another one. This one is in my hair. It's like they're trying to hide it now. But it was one night I didn't pray. I was tired. I went to bed. I did not pray before I slept. You can think what you want. I share this to help you, not I don't want to make myself look foolish. I know that's what it makes me look like to regular people, the normies, but if I can help one person, and it is frustrating lately. I feel like I'm not producing any good fruit. If it's just my enemies watching this or just people who want to steal their message and monetize it for shekels, then who am I actually helping? I've given God permission to share my testimony, even though it'll be embarrassing to me all over. Oh, that's so gross. Now that formerly secret biological warfare documents have been released after nearly 30 years, at least part of the grisly story can be told. What we can learn from the documents, which the government is willing to release, is just the tip of the invisible iceberg. The fact that innocent civilians have been victimized by their own governments, however, makes clear the threat posed by today's invisible technologies of war. Microbiological holocaust. Warriors have been busy developing biological warfare weapons since the prehistoric days when shamans first poisoned their enemies. Hold, please. Please understand, I'm not a medical nor a legal professional. We are looking throughout history. We are trying to learn about the American history of our nation. All my disclaimers are in the disclaimer box. The memory of the political use of disease during the Crusades and the Inquisition may have been too fresh in Hitler's mustache man mind to allow him to unleash the vast arsenal amassed by Nazi scientists. The Japanese, you're not hearing a lot about the Japanese right now, but let me tell you, my son and his friends, they all like the red dragon, they all like red and black, and those are Japanese colors. They're sitting on the sidelines. Do you know that when Trump was first in office and the lockdowns first started, they were showing on RT before RT was shut down? I talk about this a lot. I'm looking up to like recollect and remember. Um, they were showing. Shoot, I lost it because I was trying to explain something. Mm. Jeez, that quick. Now I forget where I was gonna go with that. I'm sorry. When I'm reading and I'm trying to like fit this into like modern times and what we're seeing now, sometimes I forget. Oh, when he created Operation Warp Speed, which most people seem to forget that he was, and that's why he went away for 4 years, right? That's why he went away from the public eye so that people could forget that he was the one there when Project Warp Speed was initiated. And people, they just don't, they have short memories. But in Japan, they were protesting with their masks on, and they were saying Trump, 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 help us, save us, hurry. Why were the Japanese doing that? Why were they rooting for our president? What does that mean? You got to look at all of these things, man, because it all fits into the same framework. Okay. This is all, and it's all happening very organized. It looks like chaos, but it's not. Okay, so it says the Japanese, however, had no such compunctions. After World War II, germ warfare trials were held, which convicted a number of their war criminals. Those trials, even more sensational than the Nuremberg trials, got little attention from the press of the day. Biological warfare was next used during the Korean War, and then it was used in Vietnam. So people got to understand, when you sign up for this, when your sons and daughters and you send them off for this stuff and you willingly do this with them, a lot of the things you see happening, think of the soldiers again as proxies for these wealthy people. They are using their population control and at the same time experimenting on the soldiers themselves. They don't always die in conflict. They pass on, and they're not going to tell you this, but they pass on from this stuff that they're testing on them. They want to see if it works. So they test it on their own men first. If it works, then they take it to the foreign nation and do it there. Easy peasy. And you still have your natural resources. Because what happens when you drop a bomb? That affects the environment, it affects the plant life, and America is abundant as far as land goes. There is so much bountiful, diverse land here. You can grow anything in America, depending on where you go, right? Our land is our best resource. And this is why you're seeing he's made all these deals already. All these mining deals, they've already been made. That's why I told you something was going on in Appalachia before any of this came out. I was just being, that's why I was watching all those camping videos. I couldn't figure out why I was feeling called to that area. And you're going to start to see more undocumented creatures because that is their home. Just like when you cut down trees, those birds and squirrels have to go to another tree. You're going to see some things that maybe you've never seen before because of what they're doing. They have sold America out. They're strip mining us. They're taking our assets, our gemstones, our minerals. They're taking and minerals when you plant crops, you need mineral rich soil for the crops to have proper nutritional value. Okay, all of this has been planned. Okay. 30 okay, in 1950, a secret biological warfare weapon not okay, we read about that. Biological warfare was next used during the Korean War. Perhaps most hideous story is that of the leakage. Yuck. And they just found white powder again. They did that when I was a kid. All this stuff is repeating. Perhaps the most hideous story is that of the leakage of anthrax germs from weapons in the remote secret city of, I'm going to butcher this, I apologize. Semipalatinsk? I'm sorry. In the Soviet Union, there just a few years ago, hundreds died in horrible agony from anthrax germs created for the purpose of biological warfare. Now, again, are people actually dying? You don't see any new cemeteries. It's rare to get stuck behind a funeral. The last time I was stuck behind one was the day after I said that. They had to create something, so, oh, make it look. I live near a funeral home. I've never seen anyone there, never seen the doors open, but the grass is always cut. Never. And I walk around town all the time. Never have I seen anyone there. I'm sure I will now the next time I go there, but never have I seen the place opened. How for a normal memorial service, you see people in and out. Sometimes the doors left open. You see people outside, hugging, crying, sharing memories. None of that. So are people dying? And if they are, where are their bodies going? I'll tell you, my spouse even said the one time after I was on the ground, when all of this was climaxing, he said, "Why do you keep getting up? Like 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 what's wrong with you? Why won't you stay down? Why won't you die?" I worked at a nursing home for years. I never had a patient die in my presence. I had to go get somebody because she needed help and allegedly she passed on after I was out of the room. Nobody ever died in my presence. Not my dad, and I stayed there and cared for him. Nobody. That's not normal. If as many people die a day as they say, when you're out and about, if you go to the mall, if you go to a concert, if you go to a place where there's people milling around, we should see people dropping like flies all the time. If the stats they give us are true, think about it. Next time you go to the grocery store, in your whole life, have you ever seen anybody just drop? Well, then how are there this many people dying every second of every day? Statistics are unreliable. We cannot trust them. And I've already cross referenced it, and it's very boring. That's why I've not done a video on it. But you can do it yourself. Just go to any stat, and it'll tell you, like, for me, like me and my son, it said on the NIH, 70% of women who leave their husbands end up murdered. But then it said something like 60% end up, you know, um, in jail or whatever. But it was over 100%. It should always equal 100%. Statistics are unreliable. Now, this is where we get into the genetic stuff, guys. Current genetic developments in what is called recombinant DNA. Oh my God, guys, I can't. God is leading this channel. God is leading me in what I research. And not me, God is leading us. Look at this. What are we looking at now in the news? mRNA, right? They're going to talk about this. And I didn't read this prior to coming on here. I had a book planned. I had a book pulled up. This was supposed to be the intro, but now the book will be in the next video. So current genetic developments in what is called recombinant DNA threaten to unleash mutant biological warfare strains from which the world may never recover. Wow. Despite an international treaty forbidding the use of biological warfare, some nations today are cheating using it anyway, according to recently released Pentagon documents. I'm going to tell you right now, just because I'm reading this, do not accept and receive this into your body. We are just reading information. We are not empaths to the point where other people's words stick to us and harm us, right? Just because we're reading about this does not mean it's going to happen to us. And I pray against that, and I do not consent to genetic manipulation of myself and or other members of the human race who don't know to not consent to it. Okay. According to recently released Pentagon documents, the Soviets may well have used both chemical and biological warfare weapons in Afghanistan. I mean, they always want to make Russia the enemy, and I'm telling you, it's our own government mostly doing it to us. Rocky Mountain Plague. When the news of secret leaking Army wet-eye nerve gas canisters in Denver, Colorado was released, it sent shivers through the citizens of the Mile High City. Would Denver be America's first Semiplantisk? A controversy over how to dispose of the nerve gas bombs has raged over the past few years in Utah and Colorado. Gee. The U.S. government wanted to ship the bombs to a remote location in Utah since the task of neutralizing the bombs seemed impossible. The government announced that they would load the bombs on airplanes and fly them from Denver to the remote Utah location. That person's okay. I'm sorry. Things have been strange around here, and apparently it was their slumber party night last night because there's a bunch of cars across the street. Those same people who gaslit me in a chat on YouTube, in a live chat, and said, "Hey, I'm your neighbor. I'll prove it. I'm gonna wave to you when you come out here. And by the way, why did you marry a gay guy?" Like, this is how they gaslight me all the time. So I went outside. They pulled out, and they actually did wave to me. You know what my husband said? That it could be a coincidence, that I'm crazy, that I got to stop listening to people on the internet. They follow you around online. They can do that. They know your username and they can follow where you go. They don't tell us that. That's what they do on the back end. Do you think they're going to show us how to do that stuff? But yeah, last night was Beltane, and it's a fertility right day. So they had their little party across the street, it looks like. And this is what happens in this area. They think you're stupid and you won't notice, but every time they all get together, something's going on. It's always on some pagan day. Grown adults, or alleged adults, because like I told you, we're dealing with mentalities here that are Nephilim brats, basically, and I've talked about them a lot. Okay, so it says Wizards of Death is next. It said no one wanted the leaking bombs flown over the countryside, however, and a loud protest arose. Today, those nerve gas bombs sit in a storage depot near busy Stapleton International Airport in Denver. So at this time in 1985 or whatever, Denver and Utah, or was it 1985? Yeah, 1985, because he says today, and today is when this was written, was 1985. So I wonder what they decided about that. Wow. So it says Wizards of Death, like biological warfare, chemical warfare was first developed in ancient times, and it has been used in World Wars I, II, and in the Korean War and in Vietnam. There's also something, what did the Greeks call it? I don't know if anyone's still here. Liquid fire, or I forget what it's called. Grenade Mama says the same exact day you spoke of funeral processions, I saw one. I haven't seen one in ages. That's what I mean. They watch my channel. You can think that like I'm lying all you want, but they watch my channel, and they know, like, they know how to gaslight us, me, whatever. Okay, so Wizards of Death, like biological warfare, chemical warfare was first developed in ancient times. Disguised as a herbicide during Vietnam, the chemical warfare weapon Agent Orange, and that's allegedly very bad. They told people it was an herbicide. That's terrible, because you would use it thinking that it's a good thing. You'd use a lot. You'd use it in abundance, so it would affect your health. Disguised as a herbicide during Vietnam, the chemical warfare weapon, Agent Orange, for example, poisoned thousands of American GIs. Today, those GIs suffer from the after effects of the weapon, unable to receive adequate compensation from Uncle Sam, who continues to minimize the dangers of Agent Orange. And a lot of them are houseless. When I tell you that the military is in these tent cities, by that I mean some are disguised, active military agents ready to go active whenever they're called to duty. And also cleaning our streets and doing these sweeps of the legitimate homeless people, some of which are their own vet brothers and sisters. So what you're seeing happening is very planned out, very orchestrated, and very nefarious, if I do say so myself. It says in 1980, the Soviet Union attacked Afghan rebels with deadly Soman nerve gas, mocking every treaty on the books. I don't know what that is in the middle there. According to Lieutenant General Nikolai Chernov, the Soviets equip every division of the army with TMS-65 decontaminant trucks. That's good. Soviet-led Warsaw Pact troops regularly conduct nerve gas war games using live weapons and deploying 100,000 chemical and biological warfare specialist troops. That would make you very careful. If you had to train that way too, you would be very studious and you'd pay a lot of attention to detail. They would probably be very good agents, or at least that would motivate me to be a good agent and be careful of what I'm doing. The U.S. maintains 3 million convulsive causing sarin bombs and hundreds of thousands of gas landmines. Nerve gas weapons comprise 2/3 of the 150 tons of poison gas in the American arsenal. And some of that's stored right in Denver, near that crazy wonky airport. As they did with biological warfare, the CIA tested chemical warfare weapons on U.S. citizens, attacking hundreds of unsuspecting GIs with BZ, a hallucinogen 100 times more powerful than LSD. Oh my God. That's part of my testimony too. In the beginning of this, he brought home some substances, and there were some brought by that man who said he was a fallen angel, and I saw on the History Channel on one of their biker shows. Like, this is true. They will do this, and a part of MK Ultra is like the LSD aspect. And again, these substances were brought around me at the same time, and it opened me up. Thank God I had this gift when I was younger. When I grew and I started sinning, God, this is important to note, God took away my foresight. He took away my intuition. He took away my ability. Like I became that deaf, dumb, and blind spirit person. When I came back to God is when that intuition, when these prophetic utterances, all that came back when I repented. I need to make that clear so people understand I'm not practicing divination or doing anything like that. I am simply praying. And God, that soft voice within, speaks to me. He told me all about the Native Americans being of the lost tribes. And I find out that that's a Mormon doctrine, that that's part of their knowledge base. And God told that to me in prayer before I ever read any of that information. So it's important to note that what I do here is not divination or anything like that. That's not what I do here. Okay, so here we go. Oh, that's gross. I don't even want to read that. Okay, so it was difficult for the BZ victims to complain of after effects of the test, however. Oh my God, since BZ left the victims with amnesia, haven't we talked about our memories being reset? Haven't we talked about like that's what they're trying to do? It has nothing to do with the money, it's us they want to reset. In the Old Testament, Moses is given 120 years. God flat out tells him, my spirit will only strive with your physical form, with flesh, for 120 years. Moses was still healthy. He went to the border of paradise, of the promised land, and he sat down and died, even though he wasn't ill, at 120. And then Satan and Saint Michael fought over his body. This is why I tell you, your body is more important than you know. This is why you're not supposed to be cremated. We're not supposed to be in the dirt either, 6 feet under. We should not be agreeing to that. I do not want buried. You have no permission to bury me. Set me on the side of this road. Set me in the woods. I will be with the forest critters. I don't care. But do not put me on the ground. I do not consent. I am not going to be I am not participating in much of this anymore, as much as I can pull myself out of it, because I'm not in agreement with any of it. I'm not going to participate, and I'm not going to comply with people who are my enemy. So if it's only my enemy exploiting me and these messages really aren't getting out, that means I'm going to have to leave. I'm going to have to become a vagabond and just do this from the road to see if I can reach people, because that's the whole point. That's what I'm supposed to be doing. Okay, so that's gross. They can actually give you amnesia. And we've talked about that on this whole channel, about how that's a theme in movies, about how Men in Black have that aspect with the bright light and then you forget, right? About how when I first moved to this house, when the lockdown started, about how I got mail from Medicaid and on the side it had in big red letters and the stamp reset. What the heck does that mean? I even asked the lady, I called, I was like, I gotta fill out paperwork for Medicaid and I don't in Medicare, and I don't understand why it has this big stamp on the side. She didn't know what it was either. I don't know. Uh, I've told you about all these gaslighting things. Like my whole life is some experiment, and I do not consent. I just don't. But my mom knew I had this gift, and when I was about 17, before I was even legal, she made me sign these papers. Oh, it's life insurance. It's the responsible thing. Jenny, listen to your mommy. And they play you like that. The Bible isn't supposed to be used to beat people over the head into submission with it. Like, that's not what we're supposed to be doing. And women aren't supposed to be submissive to ungodly men. But that's what the churches are telling us to do, and it's causing us harm. Some people like me have been seriously abused by following the doctrine the way they say it needs followed. And I'm not a feminist, but I'm not a masculinist either. I'm a for mankind. I'm for God, right? Like there's I hope people start standing up. I really do. Okay, so now we know they can give you amnesia. It's right there. CIA intelligence expert John Stockwell resigned in horror after revelations of chemical warfare atrocities by the agency. Despite the protests of Stockwell and other men of conscience, see, some people still have a conscience. They don't want those people, though. They don't want you if you got a conscience. And other men of conscience, a powerful lobby today demands repudiation of all treaties outlawing German nerve gas weapons. Chemical warfare developments overlaps that of biological warfare and the growth of the new science of genetic engineering, which poses an even greater danger through its invisibility than does well-known and already predicted nuclear holocaust. Why? Because it's covert and hidden and easier to get away with. And wicked people will capitalize on that. They will exploit you for that. They don't care. They don't see you as a being. You're a useless eater. And then slamming the doors now. How much you want to bet the connection goes down soon here? I do not consent. I do not consent. Please, God, show exactly what needs shown. Okay, so it says mind control. Am I not even showing? I'm sorry. It is a laptop. The CIA Nazi connection. Clandestine wizards of the Cold War have searched for new technology to forcibly control the human mind for more than 40 years. At the close of World War II, when the leaders of Nazi and US intelligence agencies joined forces to construct an allied intelligence network, when they gave all those mad scientists from Germany amnesty and sanctuary in our country, they became buddies. Of course they did. The Nazi spy chief Reinhard Gehlen and the OSS's William Donovan, that's a name that'll come up a lot too, and the FBI's J. Edgar Hoover all conspired to develop mind control weapons. You know, I thought of that recently about how some of us TIs say we feel like Truman. Why is the Truman Show called the Truman? Why is he named Truman? Because all that started with the Truman administration. He made that agreement with those others, with the extraterrestrial, whatever, interdimensionals. It's wild once you connect all this stuff. It really is. Okay. So Hoover and Donovan, like their Nazi counterparts, commissioned leading psychiatrists in their nation to come up with an automaton making technology. What does that mean? Turning humans into bots. If you've not seen the video I did on the celebrities, you need to. Winona, the singer, and Martin Lawrence. When she came out with Jelly Roll, he had to hold her hand. And so did the girl on American Idol. She had to hold the hand of a grown woman, of Winona Judd, who has performed since she was a child. Martin Lawrence had to have his hand held by Will Smith almost the whole time he come out. And when nobody was holding his hand and he was sitting in a chair by himself and they were doing that interview, if you've ever seen this clip of all the people who used to be on the Martin show, he was sitting by himself and they were talking about him like he wasn't even there in the past tense. And when they'd remember him, they'd look over, but nobody really interacted with him. And he didn't interact back. He just kind of sat there. Nobody was holding his hand. Then we saw that clip that leaked from the side of the wrestling rink with that, I think it was Jackson guy, how the female was his handler. The females are the techs. I told you that when the Trump thing went down, when that alleged attempt on his life happened, first of all, the blood was in the wrong direction. Second of all, the girl in front of him, the one that they made a big fuss about, she was the tech expert. She was there. That's why she had that thing. And again, look at the pictures without their framework, without what they're telling you. She was the tech. That wrestler guy had a button in his hand. That's why you got to hold the hands, because the guy on the side, and again, this leaked, somebody was watching this happen ringside. And it was in the middle of a match when most people would went to get like snacks or whatever. He says, "Hey, where's the button at on this guy? Where's his button?" And the female handler comes over and, pushes it on his hand, like she holds his handler, slaps his hand, and then she gives him a couple commands and he wakes up. Okay? If you've not seen that video, go see it. So they want to turn people into automatons. I told you my husband seems like he's walking around just a shell now of his old self, that like his conscience and the things that I thought he was such a better man than me. I looked up to him and admired him because he was had so much self-control with other women, just in general in his life. He had self-control. And I admired that. And I looked up to my husband, and that's how it should be in a relationship. But something went really sideways and he's not like that anymore. And it's not just my behavior. See, they want to gaslight you and make you think it's all you, it's your fault you did this. And they want us to be some type of Manchurian candidates. But for whatever reason, this did not work on me. He asked me flat out when all this began, "What is so special about you? What's so special about you?" Because they were trying to get me to, I guess, act in a certain type of way in which I was not doing. And I'm still not doing. So here's the proof. Everything that TI say, everyone out there saying we're crazy, here's the proof. And I will link this one. I'll make a point to. Sometimes I forget. Clandestine wizards of the Cold War have searched for new technology to forcibly control the human mind for more than 40 years. Nazi counterparts commissioned leading psychiatrists in their nation to come up with an automaton-making technology, basically to turn humans into synthetic robots. If they can make clones, then why are they doing this with people? Because they can't make clones. That's a lie. Stop listening to the lies. They can't make clones, okay? They can use our bodies to possess. They don't need to make clones. But they do tinker, and they do fertilization. And I wonder about those people sometimes if they have conscience, because I've dealt with a few of them who don't seem to have. They know right from wrong, but they don't seem to act in that way. They can say it, right? But in the heart, it's not there. All right, so Nazi research into mind control began during 1920s at the Kaiser Wilhelm Institute, inspired concentration camp atrocities of the infamous Joseph Mengele and others. Remember, he was real into twins. I would almost bet that every one of us at this point has a twin that we just don't know about. And I'm not kidding. I think that might be true. And they showed us that in the movie, The War of the Clones. And I told you, they're taking popular movies that the Antichrist likes, and they're putting them and making them like they're really happening. Are they actually happening? Was there a train crash in Palestine? I think there was something else going on that they wanted to keep us away from, much like they're closing down a couple of the national parks. Why are you closing Yosemite? You don't want us there? Why? Well, I want to go there now and find out why you don't want me there. See what I mean? They use a lot of reverse psychology too, so you got to be careful. It says the Nazi inspiration for the CIA's mind control operations has recently been documented with the declassification of a project code named Paperclip. Paperclip evolved into a series of CIA projects using unsuspecting citizens as guinea pigs. These included such code names as Bluebird, Artichoke, Midnight Climax, and the now famous MK Ultra. Documents related to these projects have revealed that America's most respected, influential psychiatrists conspired to unleash mind control weapons on unsuspecting Americans and succeeded. How many times do I have to tell you that this started with that? That this girl that I used to dance with who came out of nowhere, whose son was best friends with my son, who apparently for years she just acted like I didn't exist. Oh, hi. Suddenly come back out of nowhere. I had told she was very sick with an STD and was dying. She didn't. She looked pretty healthy to me. Um, hmm. She suggested that you're on disability now, and if you're feeling kind of alone, I go to, go see this counselor. He works here, and he said, "Oh yeah, I know her. I sit in her table sometimes, and she's my waitress." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." I'm thinking it's a good thing that she referred me and that this man will listen to me. I said, "Yeah, I think I need marriage counseling, but my husband refuses to come." One time I went there. One time I accepted a bottle of water from him. This is how I knew when I went to the police station to report that violation of my body that had occurred in my own home. And they try to, "Oh, that didn't happen. That didn't happen." You really think a woman wakes up from something like that and doesn't know she's been violated in her own body? I am so sick of these men without conscience. And again, I'm not a feminist. It's about compassion. How can you say that I don't know when somebody violated me? But anyways, one time I went to a session of his, and again, I'm going because my lawyer said maybe you should do this. It gives your case more reliability. You get to tell them how you've been feeling and how this has affected your life. And I'm like, okay, I've had to give up a few things that I really loved, like playing catch and hitting balls. Um, I can't run or walk the way I used to. I can still walk, but and there was one time that I lost time in his office, and it was when I accepted a bottle of water from him. And I remember I looked at him and I came to awareness. And I said something, and he goes, "Well, Jen, you've been here for over an hour." And I looked up and I looked around and I got my stuff. I left and I never went back. That was also the time, now this was held in a house. When I got to the top of the stairs, and for some reason there was a woman in this room, and I said, "Well, what's she doing here? I don't really feel comfortable. I mean, we can shut the door, but she's still going to hear me." "Oh, no, no, she's just doing paperwork. Don't worry about her." I'm pretty sure they tried to program me as some type of Manchurian candidate. I am not gonna do any harm, right? No matter how weird you make me think my husband is or how wicked they're behaving, I love them. I'm gonna serve them. I'm gonna continue to wash their clothes, do their dishes, and clean up after them because I love them. I love my family. I don't know what's wrong with them. Okay? I'm exposing the evil that has been done to them, through them, to me, to people in the community. Number one, to free them. Once you expose a thing, it gets scared. It does these others, these lower frequency beings, they don't like exposure. They hate exposure more than anything. So by exposing them and confessing for my family, I am helping them in the best way that I can, trying to detach that garbage from them. But they're still my family, as far as I know. So I'm still going to try and serve them. I'm still going to try and wake them up because I love them. I will do no harm to them, and I will not harm myself. Harm may be allowed to come to me, though, just to wake them up. That might be the only way that they will wake up, is seeing something in person. And I'm not afraid because I know death is an illusion. That's what I'm trying to prove to you all. Let's continue with this because, again, this leads into all this stuff. It's very possible the reasons that they do things to certain people is because we live longer, we last longer because we are God's children. These ones, they think that keeping it in the family and the genes and all that they're doing something good. They're degrading as we speak. Their genes, their genetic, all of it is degrading. Because why? Because those two things cannot bind together. God told us in scripture in Daniel. This is why Baphomet has the DNA strand. That is him trying to connect humans with these other things. That symbol is theirs. It belongs to them because it's in the stomach of Baphomet. I won't use it. And this is why DNA is unreliable. But God said that the Antichrist will come from the tribe of Dan. Did they just mess up the letters? And they're testing everybody's blood to see whose bloodline, because there's 8 blood types. There were 8 on the ark, right? Follow me. Were they testing blood types to see who is of the tribe of Dan? They're looking for their Messiah. What I don't understand is how they think they're going to win over the creator of the universe. That blows my mind every time I think about it. Okay, so this tells you that America's psychiatrists are in on it, and I've told you for years, what they're practicing in some of those offices is witchcraft. The one girl, the witness who testified against her mother, and we'll go over this sometime, when she went into the office, for the first few times, she didn't wanna talk about it. She didn't want to turn her mother in, okay? Because somebody else harmed them outside of their car, and they were trying to say that the mother set this up with this man. Now, granted, she might not have been the best mother, but I don't think that's what's happened. But again, I digress. Her first 3 visits into that psychiatrist's office was writing down her mother's name, balling it up, and then throwing it in the fire. So the act of writing down her name, balling it up and crunching it up and then throwing it. She said after that, she had no problem speaking out against her mother. Well, gee, I wonder why, especially if you're not protected by God. So this is gross. Psychiatrists conspired to unleash mind control weapons on unsuspecting Americans and succeeded. This is why you see all the catastrophes that you're seeing, and they say, well, that person was mentally unstable. They weren't unstable. Something's being done to them in these offices, and they don't remember it when they leave. And then somebody calls them, they're given a code word, and because they're mentally weak, they fall right into line, turn into the automaton, and go do whatever heinous act. Then they don't remember the act. They're in jail in shock because they don't know what's happened. This is why I'm very careful, because I know they've messed with my mind. I know they've tried to do things like that with me. I know they hate that I'm uncompliant. I'm not going to comply with evil for as long as God protects me, as long as I have my own free will. I will renounce and rebuke this crap every single day with every breath I have. In God's name, in the name of Jesus, for my family, for my children, if they are still here in these vessels. I honor them still by caring for them and tending for them still, because I don't know. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. They could have just really degraded. Maybe God made my son like Nebuchadnezzar, and that's his punishment for whatever he's done wrong. Some of you should take a hint of that, those with ears. It's very bad. But still, I continue to care for him because it's the vessel of my son. And I love my family. Even if we were unequally yoked, even if I found out, we had good memories and good times, right? And regardless of bloodlines, DNA, any of that stuff, I have compassion. And my job is to share that. If you hoard love, how was that love? I hope I inspire other people to stand firm in truth and resistance, but do so in a passive way, nonviolent. Show the love that you have. Love is an action word. It is a verb. It is something you express through your actions with others. Okay? You can't say you love animals and go eat them. I was doing it for years. I was double-minded. I thought, well, I need that. I need that protein. They push protein so much. But if you look it up, again, I'm not a doctor. This isn't medical advice. Go do the research yourself. Look it up. We were told it's the building block of life. But it interacts funny with certain substances and certain chemicals. I don't think we need as much of that as they say. And again, if you can't watch it, then you shouldn't be eating it. If you can't see it be done, and if you can't do it yourself, there was a kosher way that was supposed to be done. I had no idea that industrial farming was that bad in America. I didn't know. And I'm not making excuses or justifying you. I'm telling you, I understand. Because you just don't know. You don't think about it. It's the way you're raised, right? Where does food come from? Oh, the grocery store. A young man I worked with, he said something, and I said, nah, I'm never going to go digital. I'm not going to go crypto or any of that stuff. I said, I'm going to be done at that point. I'll just opt out. He says, what? Well, what are you going to do without money and without a place to live, without food? And this is a really smart kid who was homeschooled. I would figure they taught him some stuff. I said, I said, I can forage. I can fish if it gets that bad. I said, but fruit grows right on. I said, there's food everywhere, everywhere. It might not be as tasty, but there's food all over the place. If you look, if you know where to look, it's everywhere. It's right in front of you. Dandelions are a kind of food. And he was like, he didn't know what to say. Shortly after that, I got fired because I said flat out, I'm not going to go with this digital currency agenda. I don't want to go any further into the system than I already am. I want to be pull out now as it is. I only do this because I still feel like God wants me here. But the second God gives me leave, I'm out. Like I've got my bag, I've got my documents if I need them. I can't do this anymore. This is going to get gross, and this will be hopefully the last part I read of this. American Frankenstein, since the days of ancient China's legendary warlord Sun Tzu, good book, The Art of War. Know your enemy by reading bits of that. Mind control has been most sought after military weapon. Mind control techniques were developed and redefined through the succeeding civilizations of India, China, Egypt, the Mayan Empire, Greece, Rome, medieval Europe, Nazi Germany, Soviet Russia, Red China, and finally the United States. Almost everybody, right? Well, not France, not Switzerland, not them. Some of the more widely used methods of mind control have included sexual manipulation, drug hypnosis, behavior modification, and assorted other methods which control an individual's freedom. Let me make sure we're still good here. I don't know how things are going. Oh, 5 likes. That's nice. Yes, to the hallucinogenics. Yeah. I think they've done that to all of us. If you're a targeted individual, you should be praying over all your food. You should be preparing your own food and drinks. And I would advise a water filter of some kind because of all the things that I've seen and been privy to. Now, again, they won't talk about their exact things in front of me. They know better. But I know the signals to watch for. I'm not a child, right? Okay, let's get back to this article. I just want to make sure you guys are still there. I don't want to waste my time, right? If I'm not broadcasting, then I can go do something else. Some of the more widely used methods of mind control have included sexual manipulation, drug hypnosis, behavior modification, and assorted other methods which control an individual's freedom. That's what they're doing to all of us. The lockdowns, they don't need to send us to a camp, guys. This is our camp. Your house is your camp. What better camp than the one you pay for? They don't have to have resources for any of it because what's the definition of MK Ultra? The flashing pictures. Well, they can do that right from your phone, right on whatever device you're on. They can put things into your suggestion feed so that you watch certain videos and certain people. It happens to me all the time. I don't believe everything is of God because you go to the logical stuff first and then you go to the supernatural. I know things begin in the spiritual. I know that the spiritual is motivating the physical. That much I get. But that doesn't mean that everything that happens is godly. Do you know what I mean? We're not supposed to allow everything because God is just like us. He's like, well, I gave you sovereignty over that earth. I gave you dominion, and look what you're doing. You've allowed Satan to have control just by default. You have to claim it and name it. It is our inheritance. That's why he wants you to renounce it because they want us as guilty as they are. So we have to suffer the same punishment because they want to hurt God. And that's the best way they figure they can hurt God. Or they figure if God has to be done with all of us, if they can ruin all of our salvation and God happens to change things or let us in, then he has to let them in too. It's all very, again, I don't understand. I'm not the greatest strategist when it comes to war. I'd rather have peace and harmony. I'm just that type of person. Okay, so it says the U.S. government wanted to ship. No, is that the right part? Yeah, I already read that. Okay. Yeah, we read that part. Okay, despite earlier denials, the CIA did successfully brainwash Americans. Oh, gosh. Psychiatry. Institutional psychiatry has become an instrument of civilian control of the modern state. Pay attention because they want to take all the houseless people, the ones that they don't clear off the streets and disappear. They want to take all of them and reopen the asylums and put them in the asylums. What's the problem with that? Number one, if you're going to do that with regular people that use, oh, it's the vets. We need to help the vets. They're homeless. We need to get them off the streets. And they all need mental health. They all need mental help from living in that situation. You have no sovereignty in a place like that. They take it away. Now, just because they take it away doesn't mean God takes it away. You still have it, right? But it's going to be harder for you to instigate or to wield because you're under physical control by these other people. Do you get what I'm saying? It's still not a position anybody should want to be in. But here's my problem with that. If they're going to put all those homeless people there because, oh, they need care and, oh, they're our vets, we should be taking care of them. What are you going to do with all these people who are pretending to be other things than they're not? All these people walking around saying that they're animals. Do they go for mental help? They're not animals. They're human beings, consciously aware beings. They're not dogs, but they're walking around on leashes. And why did kinks become a public affair? Those were supposed to be kept behind closed doors. It's not liberating to me. It's embarrassing, honestly. It's embarrassing and it's gross. You think you're being liberated and people are laughing at you, pointing at you in other countries, think that we're a joke. So that's my question to the controllers. What are you going to do with all these pretenders? Boys pretending to be girls, girls pretending to be boys, people marrying trees, people marrying animals. Do they go to the insane asylums too? Or no, because they all have jobs and they're economically viable. I want to know. Or are all these people that you're going to put in the asylums now going to come out and be like those people? Are they all going to now have perversions? Because you can give people a perversion by giving them a demon. The sad thing is most of these demons don't like human activities, biological activities like procreation. They think it's disgusting. But the perversions that you get come from them. No joke. All you got to do is look at each one's attribute and what each fallen angel or demon is, what their dominion is, what their principality is. And you can see where the perversions come from. Most sensual perversions that you're seeing today in America are coming from Asmodeus. He has some type of power over America. He is the one you should be praying against. God, please protect me and hide me from him and his minions and any retaliation they might bring my way. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay. Psychiatry. Institutional psychiatry has become an instrument of civilian control in the modern state. Mind control police tactics have completely replaced the criminal justice system in the Soviet Union. Behind the Iron Curtain, where intolerable conditions would otherwise spark revolt, psychiatric techniques have turned the Soviet population into a herd of terrified and apathetic automatons. What you're seeing happen here. With high-tech Soviet mind control employed agent political dissidents to silence them permanently. In the US, the mental health industry has been operating for many years on Soviet-type plans to replace the American justice system with the mind control operation. And I told you STIs are beta tests. It's already happening because this article is from 1985 and it was released under the FOIA Act. And I found it by accident. Go back to the beginning of the video. You might want to see those bits. Okay, electromagnetic mind control. Oh my God, guys, everything is in this. You've got to see this video. Okay, electromagnetic mind control, the Moscow signal, protected by the general public's unwillingness to believe that such things can actually happen. And that's the problem, is they have so many people laughing at this stuff, saying that could never happen. That's science fiction. That only happens in movies. There's no such thing as a cryptid. They created it all through genetic tinkering. They know they did this. But then they have their people call you crazy. Anyone who is still working for clandestine organizations like this, you have no excuse. Oh, I'm just following orders. My youngest started saying that when he started changing. Well, they're just don't be an order follower. Are you going to follow an order that's morally corrupt or ethically questionable at best? And why? For a few shekels? So you can buy a boat or have a weekend on a boat away? And while you're away and using that money, are you ever going to think that that's blood money? And these people don't care. They don't belong in positions of power. Our leaders should be people who don't want to be leaders. They should be people who have some type of moral compass. They should be people who've struggled and went through some stuff so they can relate to the public. If you close yourself off and separate yourself, I mean, I have to a point, but I'm talking about in castles and all you are is on TV and all this, that, and the other. You have no clue what's going on, right? Like, this stuff is kindergarten to me. I don't know why we're allowing this to go on still. Okay, electromagnetic mind control, the Moscow signal, protected by the general public's unwillingness to believe that such things can actually happen. Meaning, they're able to keep these things quiet because nobody believes it's possible. It's out of people's framework. They're like, that's impossible. That's only in movies. What are you talking about? You're crazy. They're using us to police each other first, us to gaslight each other. Meanwhile, they don't even have to get their hands dirty. And they don't like getting their hands dirty. I know that as a fact. They all have OCD issues about clean hands. Watch sometime if you don't believe me. Because hand washing, that stuff that came with 2019 lockdowns, that's a demonic attribute. I think it comes from Babel or Baal. Lord of the Flies and the poo too. What comes with poo, flies, washing your hands. What did Jesus say? It's not about what goes in, it's what comes out. That wasn't about food. It was about dirt being on his hands. And it wasn't directed at everybody, it was directed at that one person. It was saying, your words are worse right now than anything. Your words are more defiling than the dirt on my hands that might get in my mouth as I eat. It wasn't about food. Okay. It was about chastising that dude and putting him in his place. But again, they don't teach these things right because they don't want you to know, because they're not our friends, they're our enemies, and they're wolves in sheep's clothing. You have to see them all as like dictators. The teachers, the pastors, the ministers, the 501(c) guys. All of it has been intended to fool us and keep us good little boys and girls. The Bible was never intended to be used as a whooping stick. It's meant to be shared in a compassionate and loving way. The good news. Hey, we can have eternal life. We don't actually die. It's not forever. God sent his son and he defeated death for us. But now everybody's forgot because it's been a while. So you might need to see it again. Somebody might need to publicly have that happen again. Allegedly, that's what happens to the two witnesses. And again, they're not going to announce that the two witnesses are here. If you see them on TV or on a screen, it will be God and his angels allowing that to happen. Because if they know the two witnesses are here, they will do everything they can to hide them. Do you see what I'm getting at here? This screen will never tell you it's tribulation. They will never show you the worst of the worst in that way. Sorry, something was outside the window there. Okay, so Soviet forces have been beaming. Oh my God, I can't. And they're blaming the Soviets, and it's probably our own government. That's all I'll say about that. But believe and receive and accept and receive what you will into your own vessel, your temple. Protected by the general public's unwillingness to believe that such things can actually happen, Soviet forces have been beaming invisible microwave radiation at Americans for more than 20 years, mysteriously triggering the big C, heart problems, cataracts, and emotional stress. How many TIs write about this, about their skin burning, about getting blisters on their skin, about not being able to have clarity in their minds? How many? There's a reason I sleep alone and I won't sleep with anyone in my room anymore other than my dog, because I think things were being done to me. The bizarre Soviet zapping of the U.S. Embassy in Moscow, an incident which has been known as the Moscow Signal, may well have been the opening volley of the invisible war of the electromagnetic weaponry. I'm not a doctor, no part of this is medical advice. I have a theory that the big C can be like this, just given to people. My whole family was taken out by it. I was told when this climaxed, you're going to get the big C. You're going to get it. You're going to get it. Pointing his finger at me. Mesmerism, spell work, hexing me. You know how many times I prayed against that? I don't even believe in it no more. You can't do that to me because I don't consent. And I ask God every day to heal me, cure me, and get rid of anything that you did not put there. In 62, while sweeping the embassy for bugs, American security personnel detected a microwave beam aimed straight at the embassy. Naturally, the Pentagon and the intelligence community became alarmed at the possibility of neurological and behavioral effects on diplomatic personnel. While keeping the knowledge of the microwave beam secret from the suffering embassy staff for 12 years, they let these people suffer with actual physical ailments, probably going to doctors, probably being called crazy by their family because they can't see any damage, right? If you can't see it, it's not there. Do you know how immature that attitude is? Picture, it didn't happen. You know how many pictures are altered right now? Some old pictures aren't really old, like the ones I showed you earlier. I'm pretty sure they're older. But again, take everything with a grain of salt. Pandora personnel discovered that the Soviets have been conducting extensive microwave research operation for years and that they had concentrated their studies, on the emotional and mental effects of microwaves. This is why I'm always being asked, you got a headache? How you feeling today? Did you sleep good last night? Not because you care, because you don't ask all the time. If you cared, it'd be a regular thing. You don't care. You're just wanting to, like, what do they call that? You want to fill in your paperwork for the day or for the week. You need to know my diagnostics, right? Without me knowing it, right? Okay, Defense Analysis convened a special task force to replicate Soviet experiments and analyze the problem. DARPA then began experiment. Oh my god. That's called Project X2, that movie from the 80s with Matthew Broderick. Oh my god, I cried when I saw that movie. I was like, "Daddy, why'd you take me to see that?" I was the kid, like, who as a kid, I dreamt of chaining myself to a tree or freeing all of the rats, guinea pigs, and monkeys and dogs and cats who were being experimented on. Like, that's what I wanted to be. Everybody hates those people. My dad, like, you should be more like your cousin, and my husband, like, why are you like this? And you shouldn't recycle, and I don't care about the neighbors. You shouldn't be nice. Like, he was always griping at me. It's the charity. They don't want us doing good works. Like, they're trying to impede you from doing good works. Don't let that happen. DARPA then began experimenting on rhesus monkeys with microwaves at Walter Reed Army Research Institute. The results are still classified, but from recent duplicate studies, we learned that microwaves cause profound effects on the central nervous system and change behavior of rhesus monkeys. At a summit meeting at Glassboro, New Jersey, during June 67, President Lyndon Johnson asked Soviet Premier, I forget his name, how to say it, Alexei Koizygin, to halt the Moscow signal. Wow, it even had a name. In 69, leading microwave scientists gathered at the University of Virginia Medical College at Richmond for a 3-day symposium on biological effects and health implications of microwave radiation. Microwave authority Dr. Carol Mara of Czech, I'm just going to say Czech, declared that microwave bioeffects included pains in the head and eyes, fatigue and overall weakness, dizziness and vertigo, poor night's sleep, irritability, fear, hypochondria, tension, depression, inhibition of intellectual functions. Oh my God, and decreased memory. All symptoms which most of us TIs present today. Woo! Sorry. We are owed reparations. We are, and I don't want to be one of them people, but we are. They are pounding us and still traumatizing people and our family members with what's on TV. They're making people waste their time that they are given, going to jobs that don't matter, when what we should be is joining, gathering, loving, learning, and growing, and ignoring the rest of this. The bigger group there is of us that walks away from this, the better our chances are at actually of causing change. That's what we need to protest, is the whole system. We need to walk away from the system. Okay. Okay, I got that. Yet most of those symptoms ignored the dangers of human bioeffects. Research biophysicist Dr. Alan H. Frey was more than interested. However, Frey had determined that humans could actually hear pulsed microwaves at frequencies ranging from 300 to 3000 megahertz. Notice the 3 there. In gematria, zeros don't count. It's just 33, 33, 333. Just want to make sure people are still here. Blah, blah, blah. Here we go. All right. Where was I? I'm sorry. Oh, there. The news starts to leak. It was not until syndicated columnist Jack Anderson broke the Moscow Signal story in 72 that the public began to learn the truth. 1972, 717, 222, 33. All big numbers right now. Oh, and 555 as well. And of course, the 88 for the time travel. They operate by numbers. We operate by words and letters that they usually don't understand because they put them together wrong. They operate by numbers. That's how they message each other. So pay attention. And they each have their own number. I know this for a fact. Some of them get their number tattooed on them. 33 follows me as well. I'm not even going to lie about it. I hope it's because of Christ dying at 33 and the 33 vertebrae. That's where the chrism serum is secreted from after a 72-hour fast. This is not medical advice. This is spiritual biochemical advice. I'm not a professional or expert at anything. I'm not even an expert at running my own life. Okay, so they know this. They know that, like, this affects people, and this is what makes me so angry, is I was playing the game and I was doing very well. And I guess I'm still like Lot's wife. I'm a little bit, like I don't want my old life or my old ways back, but just the organization and the clarity, and sometimes it was better not to know certain things. And that's why I don't show certain things that I do study, and I find out there are things I don't talk about because I don't think it's gonna be helpful to you, right? It's not gonna be helpful, why bother? I don't as much as people wanna believe it, I don't talk on here just to talk unless there's something that God is putting on my heart. So the news starts to leak. He broke a story in 72. Several months after Anderson's microwave column ran, the Soviets accused the US of irradiating chess wizard Boris Spassky with electronic devices, causing him to lose a championship match with Bobby Fischer. I remember my dad talking about that. My dad taught me chess. On February 7th, 1976, the Los Angeles Times quoted U.S. Ambassador Walter Strassel Jr. as telling his staff that the microwaves could cause, and now this is what he says. I'm not saying this, this is what he says. He says these devices could cause leukemia, skin C, cataracts, various forms of emotional illness. Storsel himself was reportedly suffering from a mysterious illness that resembled leukemia, which caused nausea. And you see what it says there? I'm not even going to say it because, again, words are sticking lately. Your words have power. I know mine have a little more power sometimes than I want them to. I can get the weather I want usually. I've been praying for rain in Florida because they have a drought going. Pray with me if you want to. But usually when I ask for rain, I get it. I asked for a thunderstorm last night. I got it because God is good. So be careful with your words lately. I'm not going to read that. You see what it says. 2 of his predecessors at the embassy died of the Big C. According to National Security Advisor Brzezinski. Oh my God, I took care of somebody in a nursing home with that last name. And yes, I remember it even though it was years ago. She was a sweetheart. U.S. Embassy personnel in Moscow suffer the highest C rate in the world today, despite a brief respite. Where is it? Hold. Where were we? American Frankenstein's. Okay, so this for 12 years, Legends of Pride, codename Pandora. Okay, we got that. DARPA. There we go. Sorry. Okay, so we're going down here from the news starts to leak. Today, despite a brief respite, the bombardment of the embassy continues while much of the evidence gathered by U.S. intelligence agencies remains classified. However, raising the lid on Project Pandora has uncovered a box full of secrets about microwave effects. Why is my clock stuck? What time is it actually? That doesn't seem right at all. Weird. Okay. While much of the evidence gathered by U.S. intelligence agencies remains classified, however, raising the lid on Project Pandora has uncovered a box full of secrets about microwave effects. I've never heard of Project Pandora. That's a new one to me. A powerful radio signal that may be affecting human health has been monitored in several Eugene locations and in the air 3,000 feet above the city. There's that 3 again. Proclaimed the Eugene Registered Guard on March 26, 1978. The source of the radio signal is unknown. Thus did Eugene, Oregon, become the first major population center to suffer the effects of the EMF biohazards. Shortly before the Register Guard printed the story, a middle-aged Eugene man named Walter Dubosky came down with symptoms remarkably similar to those attributed to microwave sickness. Now, they're still acting like this doesn't exist. This is their own documents from the Freedom of Information Act, and they're calling it something new today. They've rebranded it as Havana syndrome, and oh, we don't know anything. Oh, we don't know anything. BS. If you're not an investigative reporter, get off the news. If you're not willing to actually tell people the truth, get off the screen. Go do something else. If you actually don't like people, stop working with the public in healthcare. Go work at Walmart. Lift packages instead of human beings and stop hurting people. I've had it with these sadists and sociopathic psychopaths, because they're both, who are in charge and the ones underneath them that have been initiated in. And the nepotism too. You don't get to rule things just because there's more of you. I will pull rank on you if I have to. And you know this from what happened at the restaurant, and I'm not going to go into that any further. Mankind has sovereignty and dominion over the earth. God gave it to us. They have no right to be doing any of these things. Now, I don't actually know what time it is. It says it's 10:30. I've been up since like 6. I feel like this clock isn't moving. I feel like it said 10:30 hours ago. Okay. Whatever. Uh, okay, now this is, again, we know that frequency can move things. You know this just by if you have bass, right? Boom, chicka boom, and your speaker and your blaster's going boom, 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 and you have a can on top of it. Maybe that can's bouncing, going pop, 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 right? We know that frequency causes vibration, right? So again, let's use our logic and stop listening to how actors, bad actors, are framing stories. They were hired in with this fake administration. The American government has already basically been dismantled. This is why court cases are taking so long. It is a time of lawlessness. They just don't want you to know that, so that on the outside it looks seamless, but on the inside they're trying to get all their ducks in a row. Right now is when we need to make a fuss before everything clicks into place, which it might already be in place. Again, I told you they've had a lot of this tech for a long time. Their problem is going to be the damage control and convincing people that it's new. Because I told you, hey, it's plugged in. It's not plugged in. All right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to end this video because it's been really long anyway. We will come back to this because my thing is about to die and I want this video to stay up because I've given a lot of my time to it. Your clock is stuck. Black magic and witchcraft can also do the same thing. Yes, I'm very aware. Always. I do not consent. Me neither. Thank you guys so much for being here and for contributing. I hate to end it now, but I've been going for a while and the battery's about to die. And if that happens, then the whole video is lost. So I'm going to end it, but I will link this and we will talk more about this and then get to the political roots. And trust me, it's a cult. It comes from the hills, from the East Coast, from the Pilgrims, from the colonialists. They didn't leave because they wanted their own church. They probably left because they're part of a different church. And the book is called Nefarious something, and it's, the witchcraft political roots of America. And it talks about how America was founded. So we're going to get to that as well. Thank you so much for being here. You guys have a blessed day. And ironically, I'm ending the video at 2:22. I didn't plan that. Have a great day.